Thanks for tuning into today's podcast. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our new remote training here at RPP. We've been offering remote training for quite some time, but we always required the athlete to come in-house for an assessment. Now we can do the whole assessment online and bring all of our services, pitching, hitting, and strength training to your doorstep. So, if you like what we do and how we do it, go to our website at rocklandpeakperformance.com and click on Remote Training in the toolbar. Thanks. The Behind the Scenes podcast. I'm your host, Nunzio Signore, looking to bring you great dialogue with some of the best in the world of player development. The world of training baseball players has changed dramatically during the past few years, and I'm looking forward to shedding some light here on what's the latest, what's the best, and what's really happening in the world of player development. Thanks for joining me for the ride. Hey guys, welcome to the Behind the Scenes podcast. I'm Nunzio Signore, and today I've got Robin Lund, and Robin is in his 5th season as an assistant coach with the University of Iowa baseball program. Lund serves as the Hawkeyes pitching coach after working with the hitters and outfielders during his first season. Lund earned his bachelor's degree in education from Whitworth College in 1995 and his master's degree in exercise science from Eastern Washington in 1997. He earned his PhD in exercise physiology at the University of Idaho and then became a 17-year professor at the University of Northern Iowa in the Department of Movement and Exercise Science. He was also an associate professor in the Department of Kinesiology at UNI from 2002 to 2018. Lund's main teaching responsibilities were in the areas of biomechanics, anatomy, statistics, and research. During his career, Lund also served as a baseball strength and conditioning coach at several stops. He was volunteer strength and conditioning coach under Heller at UNI in 2005 to 2006. Lund also held positions at Lewis Clark State College in Lewiston, Idaho, and in minor league baseball for the Spokane Indians in 1998. This year, Lund oversaw an Iowa pitching staff that was among the nation's best, as it ranked 2nd nationally in hits allowed per 9 innings, 3rd in strikeouts per 9 innings, 4th in ERA, and 11th in WHIP. The staff led the Big Ten in virtually every pitching category during the season, and it racked up a program record 609 strikeouts, shattering the previous record of 499 set in 2018. So today we'd like to welcome Robin Lund, and wow, man, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, of course, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
I remember meeting you while I was at Steve Oster's place in Canada, and you had just got the job as the pitching coach, and we were all sitting around there talking. I was kind of like in a dilemma because my daughter was getting ready to go away to school for the first time, and you were already experienced with that, and you were like a deer in headlights a little bit because you were trying to figure out. Now I'm a pitching coach, right? So explain what was going on in your mind and how you.
Yeah, I mean, deer in headlights is what I felt like too. I'm sure I looked like it. Yeah, no, I mean it's a little unnerving to just get in my head just for a sec, like giving up tenure. First of all, that was kind of a tough hurdle to get over because you're essentially thinking you got guaranteed employment and then you're just going to give that up to do something where a guy could fire you at any moment, so that was kind of the first deal. I would have never done it if I would have had to have been the pitching coach right away. I was the hitting coach for 1 year. I was way more comfortable with hitting. In fact, I was only comfortable with hitting. I mean, that's what I'd been my whole life, was work with hitters and position players. I'd never worked with pitchers in my life. And so when the rule for the third paid assistant didn't get passed, the guy who was our volunteer and was doing the pitching coach, Tom Gorzolani, pitched in the big leagues for a long time. We knew he wasn't going to stay. So as soon as that rule didn't pass that we couldn't get the third paid assistant, I knew what was coming. And Rick told me, hey, yeah, you're going to be the pitching coach. And so he was great. I mean, Rick's awesome. He lets you do what you need to do to get ready to go. And so I was all over the place. I mean, I was in Toronto, I was in Arizona with Brian Conger for multiple days. And I just spent time with people. And it was a little stressful. Honestly, the biggest thing I was worried about was how the players were going to perceive.
I knew you were going to say that.
That was the thing I was most stressed about. And so when it got announced and the text messages started rolling in from our returners, basically pitchers going, "Hey, Robin, this is awesome. Like, we're really fired up that you're doing this. This is great." Then I was like, fine.
Yeah, it
Like,
took some of the hiss
they're
out of it.
behind me. They're behind me. I can just go, and just went from there.
So when you finally were in charge with the pitching staff, how did you set up shop regarding data as a new guy? I mean, you have a really extensive background with kinesiology and movement science and biomechanics. How did you set up shop regarding data as a new guy, and how did you try to? I guess maybe it's sometimes it was kind of early on 5 years ago. I guess you kind of had to spoon feed that a little bit.
Yes. So, like, if you know anything about Iowa baseball, we probably, have the best manager program in the country. We have 30 some managers that work for our baseball team, and 12 of those kids only do analytics for us. So I was working hard before I got the job, trying to like learn how to write computer code, and I was messing around with some things. And then when I got the job here, is like, well, we got all these kids that can already do it. So my code writing skills have ironically or unironically have really deteriorated here lately. But the first step for us was to get some type of automation on the reporting side. We collected a ton of data. Like, you have all this blast data, hit tracks, we got TrackMan. We just switched from Repsoda to portable TrackMan, but we were using Repsoda in the pen, and then TrackMan on the field. We use Modus or now pulse sensors every day. And so there's a lot of data being collected, plus all the video we collect, right? Like, every day we're collecting video, not only Edgertronic, but like side video and just different things. How do you get that into a format that it's accessible to not only the coaches, but more importantly, the players, right?
How do you get that? How do you get that buy-in? That's
right. Yeah. So it's like, for me, it was a lot of teaching, like just going into old school professor mode. It's PowerPoints. It's like, I make little videos in Vimeo and I shoot them to the guys through our system, and just teaching them that like what all this stuff means. So when they do get a report, they can sit down and then they can actually consume it. They know what it means. Really, what you're trying to get when you're just doing a report, and this was the first thing I told our guys. It's like, look, we're so inefficient with our reporting. Everything is like, it takes forever for people to get it. You guys are working like dogs to get it out. And you're not doing any analysis whatsoever. You're describing things, which is great. That's important, but that's low level stuff. I wouldn't even call that analytics. I mean, we need to do that, but if we want to actually do analytics, to me, that's answering questions and you need time to do that. So we got to get this thing automated. So we got the reporting structure automated. That was step one. And then after that, really the second big thing that we wanted to get done was having our own Stuff Plus formulas, right? Like, that stuff's proprietary. Everybody's got their database. They've got their own formula for creating some type of Stuff Plus score for each pitch in the arsenal. And that was kind of the next thing that we started working on. So that helps with pitch design. That helps with optimization, like understanding like, hey, what should we be throwing the most? What are we trying to steal strikes with? And so you get an idea of like, instead of just telling like, hey, throw your slider harder, I've got a bunch of data to back it up. If you do this XYZ to your slider, your Stuff Plus score is going to increase by X amount, and that really does help get buy-in too.
That was one of the big things that we when we first got our mocap, we were like, okay, we've got a mocap now, but we don't have any data, right? So we had to build that data. Fortunately, I was working with Wake Forest, like back and forth with them about some of the corrective exercises I use based off of mocap stuff in trade for multiple anonymous data. So I got tons of data anonymously. Like, I didn't know, they didn't tell me who the players were, but I got that data, and that was really helped us a lot.
You can't do anything without it.
Yeah, I mean, everything is. Yeah, is that good? I don't know. So
you have to, exactly. Yeah, you need to have that stuff.
So when you keep going.
Oh no, we're just building out specific tools. Our managers are building out our own like dashboards for managing workload and stuff. And it's not that the dashboards and the software that come with the various technologies that we use aren't good. They're good. They're really good, actually, but we want our managers to build out our own stuff. It helps them become, hireable. We had 5 of our managers last year alone got jobs in Major League Baseball. So
That's exactly I was telling my partner the thing about what Robin does is exactly what we do here in the private sector. We've developed our own assessments. We have all the technology, and we have developed systems that give us that runs it through the machine and gives us those results. And also tells us a little bit about maybe which way we want to run with that. So our interns come in and they get a learning process of how we do it. And like you said, it makes them a weapon when they go for a job in Major League Baseball.
oh, for sure, absolutely. I mean, when they can demonstrate, they've got some, and again, if you follow the Iowa baseball managers on Twitter, they do blog posts all the time. So they're doing their own kind of education that they're throwing out there, and that's quite the crew. We got a pretty special group of kids, but yeah.
That's awesome. What bring me through a little bit what the assessment process on day one looks like in order to find the lowest hanging fruit.
Well, our assessment starts with our athletic trainer, and then we're lucky. Dr. Jeff Fleming, who's the physical therapist at the University of Iowa, he'll come in and help us out, and it's just a head to toe, assessment. We just from all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, and all the things that you would see in a traditional, physical assessment for a guy. We're doing checking mobility in the T-spine and in the hips and in the ankles and in the shoulders, and we're looking at scap function and all that stuff, stability, balance, imbalances, blah, 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 all the traditional stuff that you would use. That's obviously important. You got to flag some guys for some, scaps are a great example. I mean, you flag a guy for that. We got to get working on that like 2 weeks ago. Like it's time to go. We got to get going on that. But if we do notice some things, from a mobility standpoint or imbalance standpoint, we may sit on that for a little while. And then when we are making and trying to make a decision on movement pattern things, like if we're going to make an adjustment, we'll get to way guys moving. You need to make sure that that's not a hardware problem, right? I'll use Randy from Florida Baseball Armory, his terminology, right? You got to differentiate if this problem is software or hardware, and right. If it's hardware, you got to fix that, while you're working on that movement pattern. Our strength coach is assessing guys all the time. Every time they come in the weight room, he's doing stuff with the force plates. So obviously, is this guy force deficient? Is he velocity deficient?
Are you doing that? Are you doing that with like a CMJ and a squat? Are you doing that with a jump test?
Exactly right. Yep.
Do you guys also check jumping in the frontal plane as well?
Yes.
Like a lateral RSI, like a box
drop. Oh, maybe not. I think it might just be straight up and down. Because I don't think our force plates are synced up that way. We have 3 separate plates, but I don't think they're synchronized. So I think we're just going straight up and down.
Right. Okay.
Something for me?
I do. If you use you can even the force plates are great for testing force. The jump mat that gives you just contact time, that's great to get an RSI from by just we have them step off a very small platform, very small, to simulate putting pressure into the ground, and then we have them do a Haydn kind of off the back leg with a tape measure, and we see where they land with the left leg, and then we take that and we divide the distance by contact time, and it gives us a number. And I did a study a couple years ago of all Division I pitchers. I went to like 4 or 5 major schools, and we did these tests, and 5.1 seems to be the number that most Division I guys that throw hard, that's a minimum of an RSI number. So you take the contact time, and it's dividing the distance jumped in meters. You convert the inches to meters. I think it's 0.02854 or something like that. Yeah. And then you could divide that by the contact time, and it gives you a number. And it also tells us, if a guy's got a really low contact time, that's going to mean that, he doesn't really know how to land. You know what I mean? So he's in a phase 1 plyometric. And then what we do is it allows us to bucket our guys in different plyometrics. So phase 1 is working on deceleration. Phase 2 is starting to work on the amortization phase. And phase 3 is starting to do it in a sport specific way. So giving everybody reactive Haydns when a guy doesn't know how to land yet is kind of teaching him how to move shitty. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
that's a good one. If you want to talk about that later, you can call me and we can. It's a really,
Yeah.
really, it's one of our big things.
I,
So then you go into the weight room and you test
no, that's
strength.
good.
Do you then go into the weight
Yeah,
room?
and then he's obviously yep. And then he's also using that force plate also to check readiness too, because they're jumping every time. So he's got a pretty good idea where they should be at. And if a guy comes in and he's suppressed on a day where he should be, ready to go, there's no reason why you should be having any issues. He'll start getting personal and digging in there and asking personal questions. And
So what movement does he do for that?
it's the same one. It's on the force plate. Like they jump every time they come in.
But they do like a CMJ jump.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. The
and
reason
if he sees,
yeah,
no, it should be pretty stable, right? I mean, that should be a relatively stable
it's
number.
It's a long movement. So we use pogo jumps because then it's only CNS. There's no actual, you can't really worry about a discrepancy of the kid's movement pattern, and you can really find out the tempo because it's a stiffness test, and it's there's really no movement. That's another thing. But anyway.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yep. And then Zach does a lot of he's certified in functional range conditioning, so awesome. They do a lot of cars too. So like it's a lot of self-assessment, teaching the guys how to do a really good car so that they can find those sticky spots themselves and
valuable. Autonomy is valuable.
Absolutely.
So you do the assessment. Talk a bit, because you're a strength and conditioning coach as well. It's amazing that Iowa gets this pitching coach who can do all these things. It's a really, it's a fantastic position you're in here. You're a strength and conditioning coach as well. Talk about a little bit how you marry that, what you know about that in the weight room and during assessments, and sometimes using it to adjust mechanics on the mound. In other words, how do you decide if a fix is better addressed by a movement drill or a specific cue mechanics wise?
Yeah, so I take you mentioned autonomy. I think autonomy is really, really important. We're flipping from a 3-dimensional motion capture model at Iowa. We don't have our own lab. And so we're relying on others to help us with that stuff. And when you get stuff, and anyway, it hasn't been worked out. So we're going to flip to one of these products out there. We're talking to, Jimmy Buffy at Reboot. We've talked to Mike Son at Pro Pitch AI, and what you're giving up in, maybe the quality of the data, what you make up for is being able to collect that data a lot. We can collect it way more often. In fact, we're going to put one of our managers, Savannah Dennis, is going to be in charge of that. Like just her for us is getting that collected. And so when we make a decision on a guy, like, okay, we think, we want to make a nudge to this movement pattern. We want to improve that movement pattern. We're going to take a combination of the data that we collect, but also another kind of data that we collect is just like tons of conversations with the guys. So you have a question on here. I know that you wanted to talk about, like, how long do you wait before you make a change? And I kind of attack that.
Do you wait until fall baseball's over?
Yeah, we basically wait until fall baseball's over. That's a competitive period. We're evaluating, and that kid's trying to put his best foot forward. But you also want to jumpstart this process a little bit, because it does take time. If a guy's going to make a change to something, the way he moves, and he can do it in the drill, that's fine, but can he do it on the mound with a hitter under stressful conditions? And that's when those movement patterns usually fall apart and they regress back to that old pattern. So for us, we want to kickstart that. So what I do is I break the fall up into multiple phases, and each phase has a different movement focus. And I just start at the start, with the leg lift, and we talk about hip loading and hinging and all that kind of stuff. And then we go into the drift into foot plant and all the things that go into that. Lots of teaching, I say, again, videos, PowerPoints. I don't stray away. I don't shy away from big words and teaching guys concepts that are related to anatomy, muscle phys, biomechanics, physics. I get into all that. I think if the more they understand, and I do my job and teach it well, that helps them with intention later on down the road. But anyway, tons of different drills, lots of different things that we expose them to. And we encourage them. Here's a drill, right? Here's a drill that will, and this guy may have a great hinge, but he's going to go through this stuff anyway. Everybody's going to go through these different phases where
that's what I was going to ask you. And how long are these phases?
They're a couple weeks, and all I'm trying to get them to do is experiment and play with things. So get the baseball out of their hand, get the glove off their hand, put a PVC pipe on their shoulder, or use medicine balls, or use like the water balls, or it doesn't matter. None of it's magic. It's arbitrary in some cases. But we want to expose them to lots of different drills. And then this is the key for me. If you've ever read the talent code and
Yeah.
you've, deep learning and having the kid be in the driver's seat with some of this stuff really does help them learn faster, is encouraging them to explore those patterns themselves and play around with like different things and talk to your peers and, hey, what are you doing over there? What are you trying? And then what you see is that, first of all, they shut their mouths and they get to work during our pre-throw stuff, like, because they're really concentrating. And when a kid has a little breakthrough and they feel something, that's when they feel it, they feel it, like they know. And I'm not connected in, I'm not hardwired into their central nervous system, so I don't know what they're feeling. And when they give me the aha thing, and it's like, oh, that was really different what I felt right there. Talk to me about that.
Then you're in.
Chase it. Yeah, let's go. Let's chase that thing. And then, so I'm taking all that information plus the data that we're going to be collecting from our own biomechanical assessments, and you kind of marry that stuff together. And then we're going to come up with their brand new protocol at the end of that, their own individualized pre-throw program that will have some of that stuff built in there.
So that's absolutely awesome. You talked a bit, this can lead right into this question. You talked a bit about the S2 cognitive test. I heard you talking about it in an article. How do you deal, explain what the S2 cognitive test is, and then how you deal with the results of that test. Do you do it at the beginning so you can use it in this process that you're talking about?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. The cognition test, like there's two different tests, one for hitters, one for pitchers. And the one that the pitchers get is a little shorter. It's got 5 variables in there. And the one that we're talking about is called, they call the variable motor control. And I believe the way, and I may be making a little mistake here, but generally speaking, like if a guy scores really poorly on that particular variable and he's trying to make an adjustment to the way he moves, like don't expect that change to happen quickly.
Right.
Same thing if he's got a high score, you can expect it to go quickly. So I actually don't really change my methods for getting them to change. I can just expect it to occur faster or slower.
So when you're dealing, and this question kind of relates to me too, because I'm going to look into this, because this sounds like you had told me that it was gold for you. You said,
love it.
Yeah. So this is something really great that I'm going to look into. My question is, when you're dealing with young, some of these guys are not the most confident guys in this day and age. How do you deal with your guys and telling one guy, listen, man, this is going to take you longer than Joe. This is going to or this is going to be, and then you've got a bunch of guys and you have to change the pace for each guy. How does that work?
I mean, that's exactly what I tell them. And I just like, look, it's not fair. Like, there's guys out there that are taller than you. There's guys that are there that have, longer fingers or can spin a breaking ball better. Like, so what? Like, what does that have to do with you? And how does that change what we're going to do on a daily basis to get to work? Where that test becomes very valuable is if I do have a guy that scores low and he's struggling and these changes aren't coming quickly, when he understands that about himself, he can calm down a little bit and let his guard down. Because as you know, one of the worst things that you can do is get 4 or 5 weeks into something where you're getting after it and you're going, and the kid is not really seeing maybe the results. You know how that works. I mean, you can kick along for a long time, and then all of a sudden you break through and you take off. That breakthrough might be around the corner. The worst thing you can do is like drop everything and start over.
Yeah, the shoulders slump, and you can see that the excitement just go away when that happens. That's the main reason I want to, I think it seems like it helps, like, hey man, maybe we're not taking the right path. This guy scored high and he's still not getting it.
100%.
That's fantastic. So Iowa's 11.8 strikeouts per 9 innings was second nationally to Florida State's 12. That means a lot of swing and miss numbers, and that's one of your specialties. You're doing something right. Please go through 2 of the biggest game changers in helping your young pitchers to get swings and misses.
Well, the first one is having a way to monitor, like basically a guy shows up and he throws all fall, and you got all this TrackMan data on him, and you're looking at it and you can see like, yeah, he's doing you've also got some data. You've got, he's going to probably throw, around 10 innings in the fall. So you've got some pitches there that you can analyze, and what he threw for strikes, what he got whiffs on. So you're getting an idea kind of like what his arsenal, or at least how he uses his arsenal.
Yeah.
But having a way to take that, his slider as it exists right now, let's say he was getting like a 20% whiff rate and he was getting some chase, and it was a pretty good pitch for him in the fall. You need a way to go to look at that pitch and go, if we did X, Y, or Z to that, it's going to get better, and be confident in that, because you're going to take 7 weeks. Like when we're done in the fall, our developmental block, for me, the most important 7 weeks of the year is that block that we do, where some guys go on a velocity phase, some guys do pitch design only, and some guys do a combo of velocity and pitch design. We have 7 weeks to like make a difference in your arsenal, and we need to be confident that the changes we make are going to make you better. And we want the guy to be confident, because if he's confident, he's going to work harder, he's going to be more intentful with everything he does, and he's going to buy in. And just like, when there's a sense of autonomy and a sense of control, and they really feel like this is going to help me, it does wonders for their development. They just develop faster. They just do. And so that's a big part of that. Then you just need to have some more, what I would refer to as optimization. We're going to make that slider better, but we need to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence, and I'm using that slider in a way that squeezes every bit of effectiveness out of that pitch. So whether that is, how often should we throw it? What counts should we throw it in? Where should we be throwing it? Like these are all questions that you need to understand about each guy, so that you're not misusing that slider, and you're getting as much swing and miss out of it as you absolutely can. And
I
then
have
the last piece,
I got a question for you in regards to that. When you're analyzing that data, that ball movement data, I know you, and you're pretty thorough, so you're probably pulling up a lot of Major League Baseball data on where guys sit as far as the most most Major League Baseball guys, where they sit in this range.
right.
Do you ever use the concept, okay, well, if everybody sits in this range, why don't we try to get right on the outside of that range? Because that's something because that's something hitters really don't see then that much, if most of the guys sit in this range. What is your thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, and when we have a guy with something weird, you want to kind of keep it weird, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
You want those outlier type things. No, that's a really good point. And we've had some guys, we haven't like purposely gone out and done this. It hasn't been deliberate, but we tend to have guys that are all over the spectrum from arm angles as well. Like we have a really wide variety of guys on our staff. At least last year we lost a few guys, but we had a wide variety of guys on the staff, and a lot of different guys. There's guys with steep fastballs, guys with flat fastballs, guys with sweeping sliders, guys with hard sliders, guys that throw, more sidearm, guys that are over the top. So we had a wide variety of things, and I think we could throw a lot of different looks out there too.
Great.
But yeah, so making sure that arsenal is getting used in a way that is going to, you don't want to be the reason why the guy's not having success. Your pitch calling, and that's like a worst case scenario for me. If he's getting hit, I want to just be because he got hit, not because it's something that I'm doing. And I guess the last little piece there, like with our pitch design, when we establish that we want to do something, we want a guy's arsenal to change in a certain way, or we want to make an adjustment to a particular pitch, we've had some success getting guys to do that. And I think that it comes down to just some really old school principles, which is, really clear goal setting, really clear processes. But one thing that we've done that I think has been pretty cool is, like I said, we have all these managers, and they're so into it. They're really into it, and they want our guys to do great, as much as the guys do. They're really invested. And we will have managers there on the spot with clipboards, and all of their metrics as they sit are on this clipboard. All of their pitch design goals are on there, everything that they're trying to achieve. And they just sit in the back pocket of that pitcher, and anything he says, they're just like writing everything down. If any interactions that I have with a pitcher, they're writing that stuff down. As soon as a grip changes, or they try something else, or a cue, they're just asking questions and writing everything down. And then that stuff gets captured and organized, so that when the guy comes in for the next session, he can kind of read a recap of everything that he'd already done. He's got access to all those videos on his phone whenever he wants them. Everything's organized by date and his name, and all the data is overlaid on those electronic videos. So they have all that stuff. And so you create a framework and a system where guys have access to their data, not just the numbers, but like their thoughts and their feelings and their cues, and then they have access to it. And then a little bit of autonomy. I'm just telling you, as
Goes a
soon as
long
they
way.
oh boy, as soon as they feel like they're in control a little bit, it's game over. That kid's going to get better.
That's going to bring me to my next question. So when our guys come in the summer, our college guys that are here all summer, getting ready for school, or when our high school kids come in September, if they're not playing fall ball, or in November, first thing we do is exactly like you. We do a movement assessment on the table. We take them onto the force plates and jump mat to test power output in the lower half. Then we take them into the weight room. We check strength and conditioning. We check get their 1 rep maxes using bar speed. And then we take them on a Proteus machine to check actually force and acceleration, power and acceleration in the frontal plane. After that, we crunch the numbers just like you. We look at the 4-camera video analysis in the mocap, and we decide, we try to marry everything into a program. My question to you is, we then create a program for the athlete in the tunnel, and we create a program for the athlete in the weight room, because it's like a closed loop. So they work together. As far as in the tunnel, do you sit down with every athlete and let them know, as far as we're talking about autonomy, do you let them know one-on-one what their issues are and make sure that they understand them? Because I think that autonomy, when we do that with our guys, they immediately, I can see that the time it takes to make changes is so much shorter.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So remember, like that 6 weeks in the fall, I teach that whole gamut of what I think is really great movement patterns. And so, and again, that's not us, that they can look, you can have 3 guys that look totally different, but that all hinge well. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's understanding those underlying movement patterns that we want to see. So there's a lot of teaching that goes on there. There's a lot of conversations that is happening. And when we get to the end of the fall, there's usually like, we both kind of understand one another, and we're both like, they're kind of waiting for what I think they need to work on. And they're usually right on the same page with me. But I constantly, I started sending out weekly reports to our guys. The original concept, I was going to call it TLC reports, just tender loving care reports, where I took 5 guys, 6 guys a week, just put them in 3 groups, and every week just switch out 6 and the next 6, and they would get a really detailed report. Nothing. And again, this can be way more efficient. What it looks like is me sitting at my computer and just like wham, and I just start typing all my thoughts about how this kid did this week, and I'll pull in his data from his scrimmage and how, strike throwing, swing and miss, and all, like basically his performance, and then and all the way down to like how hard I think he's working in the weight room, things that I noticed, like how attention to detail he is, just trying to pump him up and build that relationship. But I just started yammering away. And what I found is I did it the first time, and I was like, well, these other 14 guys, I don't want those guys. I've got thoughts about them. I want to give them. So I just started doing them every guy every week. So every guy every week, I sit on my computer, and it takes me a little bit of time, but they love them. Like they cannot wait to get these reports, because it's not something that I hit a button and spit out of a computer. It's
no,
like,
man, that's customized. That's really great. That's like going to an expensive restaurant.
Right. And then, so those guys get that, but the more important thing is our catchers get those reports. Yeah. So they can read that about what I think about the pitchers. And then the strength coach gets those reports and he reads them, and our trainer gets those and he reads them. And I often will say, you got to email me back and you've got to respond. You got to give me something.
Yeah. So I know it's sinking in.
Like, I agree with you, or more importantly, if you disagree with me, that's where we really need to do it. But you have to demonstrate to me that you've read that thing, you've processed it, and then you've got some thoughts. You got to reply that back to me. Well, where this goes with the strength coach piece is when we're in that phase where we're really trying to get guys to understand a hinge, our strength coach knows that. And we meet every week, once a week. Zach and myself and Jake, our athletic trainer, we meet for an hour and a half, and we make sure that we're synced up, and it's one program. Like, we have a program. There's the throwing aspect of that. There's the the technical piece where we're trying to bump movement patterns around. There's the strength and conditioning piece. There's all the work that they're doing pre-throwing correctives and all of the stuff they're doing post-throw. And the three of us sit together and we marry that. Like that has to be like this. And it all hinges on the decision that the pitcher makes. So when we start out in the fall, it's like, okay, Nuns, you've got a live set on Friday. Okay, you're throwing an inning. Fill out your survey. What are you doing the other 7 days of the week? I want to see. How are you going to plan your week? When are you throwing your pen? Well, I like to throw 2 pens, Robin. Okay, well, when are you throwing those 2 pens? Okay, well, that's fine. So they got to go into the survey and they got to drag down. They got to tell me everything they're doing every day of the week. That goes in a big spreadsheet. That goes to the managers. So we know how to organize every day's practice. We know who's throwing pens. Strength coach gets it because when a kid says, I'm throwing a pen today, what he's also saying is, I'm going to do max effort sprints today. I'm going to really get after the nervous system, and I'm going to the weight room. And I know Zach's going to, whoop the shit out of me in the weight room. And then the guys that chose a recovery that day, those guys are going to do yoga. They're not lifting. Zach knows they're not coming. Right. Their post-throw routine is going to be different. Because Jake knows what they're doing. He knows what they've done from a throwing perspective. So their post-throw activities are going to change too. So the whole day is designed around that decision that guy makes that morning about, at the start of the week, what I'm doing that day.
So your guys that are throwing pens, you're basically consolidating all that stress of the week into one day. So exactly. when they got a high intent day throwing, they're going high intent in the weight room. Very, very similar to what we do.
You so guys start that recovery cycle as soon as possible.
And guys, exactly. And guys, so you have guys that come into the weight room. It's not like a classic, college setting where everyone's got a workout and we're doing that workout today, because different guys are on different schedules and you can't.
It's all over the board.
You'll burn guys out if you do that.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. Great, man. You've really, I've written a bunch of stuff down because I think it's just fantastic what you're doing. And it relates so much to what we do here that, I can use some of this stuff. Getting off the topic of strength and conditioning and biomechanics, and how has the explosion of the transfer portal and the 1-year waiver rule changed your opinion and or process for recruiting high school athletes?
Oof, it's tough. I feel really bad for high school kids.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough. And it honestly, it makes me a little worried for the future, about that. What that's going to look like. And I think it's great that kids are making money. I really do. I really do. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a curmudgeon, and I don't think kids should get paid, because I think they should get paid. I don't have any problem with that, but there has to be some regulation, because what's happening right now is the separation between what you would consider, the top, programs. But I'm not talking wins and losses. I'm talking resources.
Yeah.
The programs that have all the resources at the top.
The big football teams.
That gap's getting bigger. And the illusion, there's always been at least an illusion. This is the curmudgeon coming out of me now. There's always been at least an illusion of fairness, right? Like, hey, this we love the Cinderella story, the mid-major team that comes out of nowhere and upsets the giant in a super regional and gets to the World Series. That stuff's it's gonna be hard. You're gonna see that less and less and less and less now. It's getting wild. The NIL was never, ever, it's pretty explicit that it's not to be used to entice recruits. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's happening. No, the number of guys that I've talked to this year and some of the deals that they're telling me that they're getting are obscene. I don't want to even repeat them, but you're talking like lots of money, like in some cases, life-changing money.
Wow.
That's the kind of money that kids are getting offered to go to a particular school. And so you're starting to see talent being collected and hoarded. I'm noticing an imbalance. I can't tell you how many pitching coaches are out there still looking for arms in late July. That doesn't happen at D1s. Like your roster's set. Yeah. Guys are still trying to fill gaps for the fall. So there's an imbalance. Something's happened. There's been a shift. Like there's more programs now that are doing let's bring 70 guys to campus in the fall. And you can do it because they're not on baseball money. They're just getting NIL deals. And so there's nothing holding them to that kid either. And so the scary thing about the one-time portal use then now becomes, okay, so I use my portal, my get out of jail free card. I go in the portal the one time. now I'm where I'm at. And if I make a bad decision and I go someplace where I look around and it's like, I'm one of like, 18 left-handed pitchers that were brought
Yeah.
in this year. You know what I mean? Then now what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. And
You're
not to
stuck,
mention morale, not what it does
right?
to a kid's morale.
So it's discouraging. Uh I understand why and again, the NIL thing is like, that was a lawsuit. That's a legal issue. That's why kids are getting money. And again, I have no problem with a kid making money, none whatsoever. I have 3 kids in college, believe me.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it, but it's got to be regulated. Look, we got to do better, and it's gonna hurt the game, in my opinion, if we don't do something about it.
Awesome. And last question for you. List the top 3 traits you generally look for in a new recruit to help these guys out that can maybe help them
Yeah.
cut through the mustard a bit.
Yep. So we're checking the boxes right off the bat. Like, obviously, just like anything, when you're there's going to be certain things that catch your eye. So things like velocity, the ability to really spin a breaking ball is going to be things that are going to kind of catch your eye and get you looking, essentially. Other things, height, stature, size, the way they move. You see a guy who just moves extremely well, a really clean arm, easy, it comes out easy. Like, there's all these really like, some of them are quantifiable, some of them are it's qualitative in nature, but like, just that first view of what you see, like, that's the thing that kind of tracks. As soon as we figure that out, the second thing that we want to know about is how that kid actually performs. Like, we're looking at like actual statistics. Like, that's still like in the college game, that's still important. Kids have to throw strikes, they have to hold runners. You can't just have guys stealing every base. Like, there's a competitive piece, like, that they have to understand. Can they throw it? Can they spin a secondary pitch in there when they're behind in the count? Do they throw a ton of strikes? Are they a winner? Like, do they just tend to win games? They just beat people. They're competitive. So there's this performance aspect that we look at. And then the last piece is, what kind of person are they? And are they going to fit our culture? Are they going to come in and are they selfish? So we're talking to their coaches. We're talking to their all the different people down there about this kid's personality, and he's a good teammate, and he's unselfish, and he's a hard worker, and he wants to be good. And like, give me some evidence of that. Show me, give me some examples. Tell me some stories about this kid that makes me, that shows that he's going to come in and fit right into our group, because we have an awesome culture at Iowa. Not just on the pitching, but like the whole program. That's Coach Heller's deal. It's like, and he's got a history doing it. He's the most talented guy, and you are a bad teammate, and you've been brought in, and you are incapable of making that adjustment. You have to go. You can't stay.
Yeah.
So you just have to be a good teammate in our play. I talk to our pitchers about that all the time. It's like, look, there's going to be times of the year where you're not contributing as much as you want to. Okay. And your teammate is, and you want to be out there contributing, and you're not. And when that guy does something awesome and he strikes out the side, you all need to be racing to be the first guy over the fence.
Behind him. Yeah, you
have to get behind. If you can't, you have to go. You can't be here if you can't do that. So those are the big things. It's ability. Obviously, there's an entry point of ability that you need to have in order to get in there, and then after that, it's stuff that's in your control. It's how competitive are you? What kind of teammate are you? Control the running game. You throw strikes, all that kind of stuff.
This has been fantastic, Robin. We're talking with Robin Lund, assistant coach with the University of Iowa baseball program. I have one last question for you, because when I first met you 5 years ago, another thing we both had in common was we love to cook. And I always see on your Twitter feed, you're showing what you're cooking. What's your favorite thing to make? What's your favorite thing to make? And is it your favorite meal?
I like there's a lot of things I like to do.
Me too.
It changes, but now that I'll answer this because it's summertime. So in the summertime, obviously we eat a lot of fresh things. We're doing a lot of grilled vegetable salads. We're doing a lot of those kinds of things. But the thing that my kids go absolutely bananas for is this burger that I had on Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado. And I ate this burger, and it is the kind of sandwich that pisses you off when you eat it, because it's so good. You don't make a burger that good, and you know what I mean? And you get a little bit jealous. And
tell me about that.
I went back the next day and I had it again, and I analyzed and I probed and I asked questions and got a bunch of information, and I went home and I started replicating it. And so when we get after it on burger night, like we'll often bake our own, buns. We'll make our own hamburger buns. I make bacon. Like, so I like doing like charcuterie. So like I'll cure my own pork belly and make my own bacon. But a date burger's got dates that are softened and with tons of like caramelized onions and lots of garlic, and you make a sauce out of these dates, so it's kind of sweet, and then the burger goes on that, and then there's a big blob of warm goat cheese, which is awesome, and then bacon, and then roasted poblano peppers. That is a burger that will change your life, and that is what
I'm going to text you later for that recipe.
I have it. I typed it all out. Again, I've made the burger 100 times and I've been fine tuning it, and I typed out the recipe. I will email it to you.
Mine is chicken cacciatore for the same reason. My family goes bonkers, and whenever I have guests over for dinner and I really want to floor them with something, the chicken cacciatore I think is really great with the mushrooms and the bell peppers and the onions and in the tomato sauce with the chicken. It's just like. So I always, that's another little kinship I think I have with you with the food,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you ever visit us out here in Iowa, you have an open invitation, by the way. If you ever came out here, I've got plenty of room at my house, and I'll cook for you.
And we're going to eat, man. We're going to eat. We've been talking with Robin Lund. Robin, how can they reach you?
I'm accessible. All my contact information is on our website. If you go to you just Google Iowa baseball. I'm on Twitter at Lunderton. It was my best friend in college's nickname for me, and I picked it. It's kind of silly, but my DMs are open, so you can reach me that way too.
Awesome, and you can reach me at Nunzio Signore on Twitter, at RPP_baseball on Twitter and Instagram. That's my facility, and our website is www.rocklandpeakperformance.com. You can also check out my book on velocity-based training, How to Apply Science, Technology, and Data to Maximize Performance. It's on Amazon, and it's published by Human Kinetics. Robin, thanks so much for being here. And thank you all for tuning in again, and we'll see you on the next time around.